Sprint. Damage stance.
Out of range.
Stealth. 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 Dispel magic. Charge. Hunter's mark.
I need to get closer.
Evasion. Slow shot. Evasion down. Poly. Success. Slow shot. Hunter's mark. Frost Nova. Fear. Success. Damage stance. Charge. Poly. Hunter's mark. Will of the Forsaken. Stealth. Sprint. Psychic Scream. Dispel magic. Dispel magic. Gouge.
It's too far away. I can't cast that yet.
Will of the Forsaken. Will of the Forsaken. Entangling roots. Gouge. Success. Gouge. Poly. Success. Sprint. Fear. Gouge. Success. Stealth. Dash. Slow shot. Gouge. Poly. Hunter's mark. Success. Slow shot.
Out of range.
Stealth. Slow shot. Seal righteous. Fear. Success. Fear. Poly. Success. Freedom. Purify. Hammer of justice. Judge. Seal righteous. Light protection. Stealth. Stealth. Protection down. Forbearance down. Stealth. Slow shot. Hunter's mark. Hunter's mark. Evasion. Slow shot. Evasion. Fear. Success. Evasion down. Gouge. Poly. Stealth. Evasion down. Hammer of justice. Judge. Seal righteous. Arcane torrent. Freedom. Entangling roots. Countered. Purify. Sprint. Stealth. Fear. Slow shot. Success. Hunter's mark. Polly. Success. Slow shot. Sap. Sap. Will of the Forsaken. Sprint. Stealth. Slow shot. Stealth. Sprint. Gouge. Fear. Slow shot. Success. Hunter's mark. Fear. Gouge. Success.
Brawl hard. Go with honor.
I have just the thing for you.
Oh, I have just the thing for you. Who is?
I need a target.
Hunter's Mark. Cure Hunter's poison. Mark. Nature's Grasp. Fairy Fire. Slow Shot. Slow shot. Hunter's Mark. Scare Beast. Spell. Slow Shot. Slow Shot. Sprint. Polly. Polly. Psychic Scream. Slow Shot. Psychic Scream. Polly. Polly. Dash. Success. Dispel magic. Slow shot. Psychic scream. Hunter's mark. Slow shot. Psychic scream. Dispel magic. Slow shot. Hunter's mark. Fairy fire. Entangling roots.
I need to get closer.
Slow shot. Dispel magic. Stealth. Slow shot. Slow shot. Sap. Revive pet. Sap. Hunter's mark. Polly. Success. Slow shot. Slow shot. Sap. Frost Nova. Cure poison. Sap. Fairy fire. Polly. Dispel magic. Nature's gas. Polly. Hunter's mark. Hunter's mark. Gouge. Psychic scream. Evasion. Slow shot. Psychic scream. Countered. Entangling roots. Slow shot. Evasion down. Scare sprint. Fairy fire. Hunter's entangling roots. Nature's grasp. Entangling roots. Slow shot. Hunter's mark. Entangling roots. Countered. Hunter's mark. Hunter's mark. Slow shot. Slow shot. Psychic scream. Slow shot. Polly. Polly. Slow shot. Countered. Dispel magic. Gouge. Hunter's mark. Slow shot. Slow shot. Psychic scream. Dispel magic. Dispel magic. Psychic scream. Slow shot. Slow shot. Dispel magic. Dispel Nature's grasp. Sprint. Fairy fire. Slow shot. Entangling roots. Hunter's mark. Slow shot. Hunter's mark.
I am out of range.
Polly. Success. Polly. Success. Stealth. Sap. Psychic scream. Slow shot. Hunter's mark. Hunter's mark. Fairy fire. Entangling roots. Entangling. Slow Slow shot. Psychic scream. Hunter's mark. Slow shot. Slow shot. Fairy fire. Slow shot. Slow shot. Slow shot. Frost Nova. Revive Pet. Fairy Fire. Hunter's Mark. Nature's Grass. Slow Shot. Polly. Success.
It is too far away.
Fairy Fire. Entangling Roots. Stealth. Psychic Scream. Gouge. Dispel Magic. Polly. Success. Slow Shot. Hunter's Mark. Slow Shot. Dispel Magic. Slow Shot. Frost Nova. Psychic Scream. Slow Shot. Hunter's Mark. Dispel Magic. Slow Shot. Slow Shot. Hunter's Mark. Cure Poison. Slow Shot. Remove Curse. Remove Curse. Slow Shot. Evasion. Gouge. Dispel Magic. Evasion down. Revive Pet. Fairy Fire. Slow Shot. Stealth. Polly. Psychic Scream. Slow Shot. Stealth. Dispel Magic. Nature's Grasp. Psychic Scream. Dispel Magic. Enrage. Sap. Hunter's Mark. Hunter's
Stealth.
Mark. Slow Shot. Sap. Sap. Evasion.
A target. Not ready yet.
Sprint.
I need to get closer.
Evasion down. Stealth. Hunter's Mark. Slow Shot. Stealth. Revive Pet. Hunter's Mark.
It is too far away.
Dispel magic. Stealth. Slow shot. Slow shot. Hunter's Mark. Cure poison.
That is still
Volley dash. Slow shot. Nature's grasp. Volley fairy fire. Polly, slow shot, success. Hunter's Mark, entangling root. Entangling root, counter. Slow shot. Hunter's Mark. Hunter's Mark. Polly. Success. Slow shot. Stealth. Sap. Sap.
out of range.
Stealth. Dispel magic.
It is too far away. I am
Slow shot.
in range.
Psychic scream. Slow shot. Slow shot. Countered. Polly. Evasion. Frost Nova.
Is not ready.
Counter. Evasion down. Slow shot. Nature's Polly. Polly fall. Hunter's Mark. Stealth. Cure poison. Cure poison. Slow shot. Slow shot. Slow shot. Polly, slow shot. Fairy fire. Entangling roots. Hunter's mark. Polly. Slow shot. Hunter's mark. Dispel magic. Slow shot. Hunter's mark. Psychic scream. Hunter's mark. Slow shot. Stealth. Slow shot. Stealth. Hunter's mark. Fairy fire. Hunter's mark. Slow shot. Slow shot. Fairy fire. Frost Nova. Psychic scream. Frost Nova. Slow shot. Stealth. Stealth. Hunter's mark. Slow shot. Sep. Polly. Success. Scare beast. Success. Psychic scream. Slow shot. Hunter's mark. Frost Nova. Slow shot. Polly. Success. Slow shot. Cure poison. Hunter's mark. Slow shot. Polly. Slow shot. Success. Dispel magic. Dispel magic. Frost Nova. Slow shot. Slow shot. Dispel magic. Dispel magic. Sprint. Poly. Evasion. Psychic scream. Slow shot. Hunter's mark. Evasion down. Hunter's mark. Slow shot. Gouge. Slow shot. Fairy fire. Fairy fire. Cure poison. Nature's grasp. Revive pet. Psychic scream. Countered. Psychic scream. Countered. Dispel magic. Psychic scream. Hunter's mark. Hunter's mark. Stealth. Hunter's mark. Hunter's mark. Slow shot. Dispel magic. Hunter's mark. Entangling roots. Dispel magic. Cure poison. Psychic scream. Sap. Hunter's mark. Slow shot. Sprint. Evasion. Hunter's mark. Slow shot. Hunter's mark. Hunter's shot. Evasion down. Hunter's mark. Hunter's mark. Psychic scream. Stealth. Sap. Hunter's mark. Slow shot. Slow shot. Hunter's mark. Shot. Dispel magic. Hunter's mark. Sprint. Dispel magic. Dispel magic. Evasion. Slow shot. Psychic scream.
Still recharging.
Stealth. Step. Slow shot. Hunter's mark.
I cannot do that yet.
Gouge. Evasion down. Psychic scream.
It is too far away.
Kick. Slow shot. Hunter's mark. Slow shot. Slow shot. Hunter's slow shot. Slow shot. Slow shot. Slow shot. Psychic scream. Dispel magic. Psychic scream. Slow shot. Fairy fire. Polly. Success. Fairy fire. Fairy fire. Fairy fire. Stealth. Damage stands. Frost Nova. Fairy fire. Polly. Hunter's mark. Success. Slow shot. Polly. Hunter's mark. Enrage. And stance. Psychic smash. Damage stance. Dispel magic. Nature's rest. Psychic scream. Slow shot. Sap. Slow shot. Hunter's mark. Sprint. Evasion. Evasion down. Stealth. Damage stance. Gouge. Stealth. Hunter's Mark. Sap. Polly. Success. Slow shot. Slow shot. Sap. Polly. Hunter's Mark. Scare Beast. Success. Very fire. Slow shot. Slow shot. Dash. Evolution. Slow shot. Hunter's Mark. Slow shot. Slow shot. Nature's Grasp. Sap. Hunter's Mark. Slow shot. Damage stance. Defense stance. Dispel magic. Dispel magic. Cure poison. Psychic scream. Dispel Hunter's magic. Mark. Cure poison. Cure poison. Dispel magic. Slow shot. Stealth. Dispel magic. Dispel magic. Fairy fire. Entangling roots. Slow shot. Cure poison. Hunter's Mark. Revive pet. Defense stance. Hunter's Mark. Slow shot. Nature's Grasp. Defense stance. Damage stance. Entangling roots. Psychic scream. Cure poison. Defense stance. Slow shot. Hunter's Mark. Defense stance. Entangling roots. Fairy fire. Damage. Hunter's Mark. Entangling Hunter's Mark. Slow shot. High dispel Hunter's Mark. Success. Slow shot. Slow shot. Magic. Damage stance. Sprint. Slow shot. Kick. Slow shot. Damage stance. Slow shot. Cure poison. Slow shot.
I cannot use that item yet.
Charge. Slow shot stance. Hunter's Mark. Fairy fire. Slow shot. Fairy fire. Slow shot. Polly. Slow shot.
A target.
Damage stance. Defense stance. Disarm. Damage stance. Hunter's mark. Slow shot.
It is too far away.
Stealth. Stealth. Slow shot. Remove curse. Hunter's slow shot. Polly.
Charge.
Success. Dispel magic. Hunter's mark. Success. Slow shot. Slow shot. Defense stance. Damage stance.
I need to get the rest.
Hunter's mark. Psychic screen. Hunter's mark. Stance. Polly. Slow shot. Polly. Success. Slow shot. Cure poison. Remove curse. Nature's grasp. Psychic scream. Hunter's mark. Hunter's mark. Slow shot. Defense stance. Slow shot. Damage stance. Charge. Slow shot. Dispel magic. Defense stance. Damage stance. Slow shot. Fairy fire. Entangling root. Defense stance. Damage stance. Slow shot. Defense stance. Damage stance. Hunter's mark. Slow shot.
After an 8.5-day trial, the judge concluded that the parenting plan remained the same, which is 50-50 shared custody. They filed a motion of limine from the beginning to disallow me to mention or speak about or introduce evidence about the church because of freedom of religion, which is a huge factor in this case. I plan to appeal. However, one of Joe's counsel had contacted me.
Natasha?
Yes?
Jason Watley, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Listen, thanks for taking my call. You did a hell of a job in court. I've never seen anybody that wasn't a lawyer do anything close to that. And, you know, it's just a shame that you guys, you know, you have a beautiful little girl, and I know it's been hell, and I know both of you would probably raise your hand and say, I've done things and said things that I shouldn't have or whatever. But I had a long talk with him. He wants to put all this behind him and figure out how to end the fighting.
He could start by admitting that there was never any sexual abuse by me.
Well, I think he would readily admit that. I think he would.
I've already started writing my appeal, and once you file an appeal, it is public record, and that's one of the reasons they do not want me to go further, and that's one of the reasons that Jason Watley called me up. It's all based on what's in the best interest of Gwen, Shamblin, Lara, and the church and their reputation, and not in the best interest of our child.
You notice yourself that this place is different from other churches. Even though Satan will try to twist this and say that we're either on one end of the spectrum bizarre or the other end of the spectrum, we're not different at all. But you know and I know, Satan knows, and the world knows we are different.
The cult leader comes on to say, oh, a workshop for diets, I can make money, and, you know, this looks good. And then they become paranoid and concentrate on enemies.
To accuse me of being deceptive is a very strong language because I've been led by God to do this.
She was so concerned about what she looked like, what the church looked like to the world. I mean, she said all the time, you gotta make Zion look good. You don't glorify God, you don't make the church look good if you're overweight or if your children are not obedient.
Police raid a business in connection with a Brentwood-based church, Remnant Fellowship. They say it's part of a murder investigation. 2 members of the church, Joseph and Sonia Smith, were arrested in Atlanta for allegedly beating their 8-year-old son to death. Detectives hope the search will yield evidence that may explain what the Smiths were thinking and what role, if any, their religious beliefs played in the death of their child. Investigators worry there may be more victims.
Listening to speeches, I felt that day was going to be a bad day.
It never occurred to me that a mob would get into the Capitol building.
Pepper spray started coming out, gas grenades started going off, just broke into pure anarchy.
They wanted to stop this election. If we were in the way, they were going to kill us.
I just started to pray.
Multiple capital injuries.
40 or
My friends and I would babysit at Remnant, oftentimes groups of 15 or 20 kids. At first it was exciting, you know, it was kind of fun. It was just my friends and I hanging out for a whole weekend with one another, with some kids, babysitting. We were making $10 an hour in 2003, which was great money. Overall, it was just kind of a fun, nice experience. was Easter weekend in April 2003, and members nationwide had gathered to celebrate the holiday, and there were more than 20 kids there for the weekend. I saw Joseph in the corner, very upset, crying. As the parents were headed into the worship service, I stopped his dad and said, "Sir, is there a game or a toy or anything that could help your son calm down?" And that's when he just looked at me and said, "Just hit him hard." And I said, "Sir, I don't feel comfortable hitting your son." And he said, "No, really, hit him hard." Again, I said no, and he took his son into the next room, and we could hear him hitting his son hard. Joseph was wailing. They came back, and Joseph was still visibly upset, obviously, and all the parents went into the worship service as if that was normal. That was the last time I ever babysat for Remnant Fellowship.
God has taken 86 pounds off of me.
I have lost 53 pounds.
I have lost 50 pounds just following my wife. She has lost 178.
I had sleep apnea, I had high blood pressure, I had acid reflux. I'm not on any medications anymore. I don't have to use a machine to breathe at night. I'm just free.
I've always looked for God's guidance, and so apparently he was able to use me, even at a young age. I adored him. And so he used me, and what I do in this program is teach people how to stop.
Look at all those lovely children.
We are living in a world where parents are desperate for answers on how to handle the increasingly immoral children of today. And they're distraught as they watch the average child just walk away from their church after their senior year of high school. 2/3 walk away. People ask us what we teach to have such godly children. Keep in mind, these children are not in a Sunday school program. These children hear the same words as the adults do, week after week, after week, year after year. And they learn the passion from watching the passionate people in this church worship.
The remnant culture is completely devoted to controlling its exposure to the external world, which is why they created a whole series of networks involving childcare and homeschooling initiatives as a means of course, keeping the children within the milieu of the group. Because of the remnant fellowship culture, you can leave a children with other adults easily. Children can be watched over by anyone older than they. The authority line doctrine empowers children as young as 9 to discipline children who are as young as 5, simply because they are older, without any input from parents at all.
Gwen's always talking to the media about how this church is different, and look at the weight loss, all the thin people, and look at the obedient children. That's a sign that God's with us.
When the parents stand, the children stand. When the parents sit, they sit. They are looking to the parents for the lead.
I had 2 little ones that were not behaving well. They're not sitting still all the time in 3-hour services. So I'm not training them correctly, and the way to train them is to spank them until they cry, or I'm not spanking them hard enough.
I can still remember one of the services, David Martin talking about having to spank his children 30 times to get them to obey.
Jennifer and I have been blessed with this advice from Gwen, and I can't tell you what a difference it's made. A year ago, our 2.5-year-old Avery We had a real showdown with her, and her will was ruling, and enough was enough. And we had a leg spanking over and over and over and over and over and over again, and that has been a different child.
I remember at one point, a family did take my kids in for 2 weeks. When I picked up my kids, they'd been spanked by the mother. And when I picked them up, they were like Stepford children. It was like I didn't recognize them. They didn't hug me. They stood there and they said, "Can we get your suitcase and pick them upstairs for you?" And we got home, and then they said, "Is there anything we can do for you, Mom?" And I'm like, "These are not my children. They're like 4.5 years apart, and they fight." And I was like, "These are not my children." And it took about a day before they got back to normal. But that was 2 weeks, and they were changed in 2 weeks. I can't imagine what they would do if they had been with them long term.
I went to Gwen another time, telling her, I just can't spank them like this. I can't spank them this hard, and it's not making any difference. There's someone in the church that's told me to use a glue stick, and you use it like a switch. It was one of them long ones, not the short ones. So she took the glue stick and she tested it on her arm, she tested it on her leg, then she tested it on her hand. Wow, I can see how that would sting. And she was like, yeah, maybe that's what you need to use. So I walked out of there thinking, okay, I've got her approval to use a glue stick. And I used it once and I'm like, nope, never again. I am not doing this to my kids. And I threw it away.
For some, there were glue sticks. For some, it was a belt. For some, it was the hand. For some, it was a spatula. For our child, it was a wooden spoon from his daycare provider, also a member, because our child was wiggling during a diaper change.
The way you show God that you are answering to him is through obeying your mother and your father on the first time. If you obey the second and the third time, or you are slow to obey, you are being your own God, and nobody playing around like that can ever go to heaven. So you will only live for a few years on earth, and then you will have a horrible afterlife. If you do not obey Mommy and Daddy the first time, you will be taken out, and you will be very, very sorry.
Let's see. Joseph, you want to go next?
Hello, I'm Joseph Smith from Atlanta, Georgia. And through this message, I've lost 65 pounds. Have to tighten my belt up just a little every now and then.
Joseph and Sonia Smith. We were friends with them, connected with them, I guess, as far as you could be. So I knew them quite well when their first child died, which they said came out labeled as SIDS, the infant death syndrome.
Being a father and the love that I have for my family, just do it together. Do it together and just put God in front of it and just do it together. And don't let nothing stop you from just putting God first.
There you go, brother. Love you. Love you.
Joseph, the middle child, he really had some serious problems. I don't know what had happened to him. And he was storing knives under his bed, under his pillow, kitchen knives. Age 8, he was threatening to kill the baby all the time. The new baby that ended up dying of SIDS. They needed some real help. And Gwen was the only help that they were allowed to have. So there's no telling what actually did go down, but I firmly believe that they did whatever Gwen told them to do.
From your news and information leader. This is News Channel 5 at 5.
My mom was watching the local evening news like she would every night, and I just happened to walk by and catch a glimpse of the screen. And there it was, a photo of Joseph Smith, and it said that he had been murdered. And I was shocked. You know, immediately told my mom, that's him, that's the boy that I was told to hit, and we contacted the authorities.
The EMTs that first responded, they talked about it being such a bad case that they had ever seen. The emergency room physician where they first took the child said worst case he had ever seen. It was pretty clear that the child was killed, just from several of the actions of the parents and also the injuries on the child's body. The child had injuries pretty much everywhere on his body except for the palms of his hands and the soles of his feet.
I worked the death of Malik Smith 11 weeks prior to getting the call of Joseph's death. Malik's was, I think it was actually classified as a SIDS death, which is sudden infant death syndrome. I believe that that's just a way of the medical examiner coming forward and saying there's no real cause of death. For me, having to return to a house at any time is kind of odd. It's very strange, especially having 2 children die within an 11-week period.
We found out that Joseph was being disruptive and that the parents got upset and put him in this wicker box and that Joseph kept popping his head out. So the parents got upset and tied up the box with bungee cords so that he couldn't get out. And before they kind of finished with the bungee cords, they slammed the lid of the box on top of his head. And at the end of the worship service, they didn't hear anything from inside the box. So they untied the box with the bungee cords, and that's when they found Joseph non-responsive. There was a little bit of, was it just the blunt force trauma, or was it a suffocation issue? And it seemed to be almost a combination of both.
A religious movement based in Williamson County is now part of a murder investigation. The question, did the Remnant Fellowship's firm beliefs inadvertently lead to the beating death of a little boy?
I had discovered that a local TV personality had done a story with them because of weight loss. I tried to figure out everything I could find out about the church and their leader. And then, it was brought to my attention that there was a tape. There was a call where Sonia Smith was asking for help about how to discipline Joseph, and one of the members did tell him, use the glue stick. When I came down to the autopsy, I did take glue sticks with me. When you hit skin like that, it pushes the blood out like this and leaves a little mark in the middle like a white mark. So I could put a glue stick in there and it was a perfect fit. That's what took me to the church. That's one of the reasons I went and served a search warrant on the church.
If there are any victims, and it could be a past member, a current member that's afraid to come out of Remnant Fellowship, please contact the Franklin Police Department.
We knew we probably weren't going to be able to speak with Gwen. Actually, when we pulled in, we had just missed her. Somebody had told us that she had just left. We conducted our search warrant, and I was amazed at the number of tapes. Apparently, they would record everything and keep everything. And it's kind of funny that I walked into this little warehouse and was drawn to this one section, and I found the tape within a very short time.
This is Sonia Smith in Atlanta.
Sonia! And you had 4 children. Go ahead, Sonia.
Well, first, I wanted to thank you. Last week, my 7-year-old, he was going through some changes. He was very disruptive. I did exactly what Ted told me to do, to spank him on the back of his thighs, take everything out of his room, and locked him in there from that Friday until Monday, and only left him in the room with his Bible. And I just praise God.
And that's just from obeying, setting those boundaries, making it clear, and just following God's lead. And so people need to know there's hope. And that's a miracle. You've got a child that's going from just bizarre down to in control. So I praise God.
I was there at the time that Sonia Smith called in. And when Gwen was interviewed on Firm Beliefs by Phil Williams on Channel 5, that came up. And of course, Gwen said it had been tampered with.
That tape has been made or tampered
or whatever. I totally deny
That is absolutely
that has
untrue.
ever been said by anyone.
And you had a chance to tell her that was not correct.
That was not on there.
Instead, you said, praise the Lord.
No, that was not on there.
We are spoiling these kids. We are, ruining their lives by even letting them think about themselves at all. So thank you, Sonia, for sharing that.
You think if you lie for God's sake, it's okay?
I believe that if God calls you to, that you had better protect Jerusalem. There's so many cases in here where people did that very thing to protect Jerusalem, and so they were rewarded.
With the Joseph and Sonia Smith case, I had a question about it. It seemed inconsistent with, me being a new member, what I was learning about what the church was. So I kind of brushed it to the back of my mind, just sort of thinking that it couldn't possibly be true because, this is not what we're learning.
The injury to the head along with the chronic child abuse is what caused the death of Joseph Smith.
Joseph and Sonia Smith listened as a detective described the battered body of their 8-year-old son. Also in court, the Brentwood author and religious leader who founded Remnant Fellowship.
Nobody said this to me directly, although people have knowledge about this, that the church paid for their bail and also for their lawyers.
It seemed like the church had no sympathy for the boy or any form of remorse that things that she said might have led to this kid's death, which I think did. Everything was about, well, we didn't do anything wrong. We're going to financially pay to try to have these people exonerated so they don't think we're responsible.
During the Smith trial, their defense first was that he hit his head on a banister and had a seizure, and that's what killed him. Well, that didn't work, so the next remnant defense was that he had eczema. I never heard of bruises all over your body being caused by eczema.
Of course, I've tried many child homicides, but this is the only one I've seen where the church was involved in the case. Now, we did not really bring it in as, prosecuting them. Of course, we didn't do that. But I've not seen a case in my experience where the church had so much influence on people.
A Cobb County judge has just sentenced a couple convicted of murdering their 8-year-old son to serve life sentences plus 30 years.
These are some of the most loving people. These are people who love their children. And so much of the evidence did not come out in this trial. And so we're hoping that the appeal process will bring all the evidence out. And so people will get to know the Smiths because they are innocent.
When this all came out and they had to serve prison terms, then Gwen and Remnant had all these sites that said thesmithsareinnocent.com and different things like that. They were trying to go to bat for them.
Leaders of a controversial Williamson County church have lost a bid to prove 2 of their members innocent of murder.
And this ruling from the Georgia Supreme Court comes 3 years after Joseph and Sonia Smith were sentenced to life in prison for the beating death of their 8-year-old son. The child's death put the focus on how the Remnant Fellowship taught its members to discipline their children.
I believe they were definitely working at the direction of Gwen Shamlin. Maybe they didn't know how to discipline as a parent. It's just unfortunate that I couldn't find enough to go a little farther with the church, but you can only do so much, so.
How can we even get to God? We have got to go through Jesus Christ, okay? I'm gonna put this over here. Anyway, to get to God, you've got to go through Jesus. Jesus has put in under him, you've got the church leaders, you've got authority. It's called authority. You've got the church, you've got your boss at work, you've got spouses, if you're married, like your husband's over the woman. So what does it mean? If you can't get to God to get your prayers answered unless you go up this authority line.
In the early days of the church, the for public consumption model of leadership and Remnant was there are certain men who are elders of the entire church who are considered like, global authorities or super elders or whatever. And then Gwen was under their authority. So it's a pretty simple structure, but the truth of the matter is I don't believe that idea that Gwen is accountable to anybody. So if you take Gwen out of her slot and put her on top and put her over the elders of the church, that's your leadership structure.
Leadership is men, which I always found interesting, that a woman's the leader, but then she puts men over everyone else.
Their leaders are basically recruited from people who are proven faithful members, who've lost their weight and sustained it for some time, because that's always the proof of purity, weight.
You would be told to go to your assigned leader for different communities. You had a certain leader that was kind of over that area in the town, but anything that we went to them with, they would have to go to Gwen to get the answer for. That's who she kept around her, and only those that would totally do and say whatever was coming from her.
One of the things I've learned through this whole process is that really churches are messy places full of messy people with lots of messy contradictions. And that's partly what draws them together. But cult leaders don't like that. Cult leaders like it neat. You join Remnant, this is the box you're gonna live in. It is a pretty box, but these are the boundaries you're gonna live in.
There's only one choice if you want to enter in through these doors. You will love authority and direction and redirection. You will love it. Therefore, lay it down.
The leadership has say in everything that you do. You don't go on a trip anywhere without their permission. You don't have family come visit you without their permission. You don't go to funerals or weddings of family members without their permission. You are not alone ever. You're in church services or you're going over to someone's house. They use WhatsApp and Marco Polo to keep in touch with you all day long. They even control your media, your social media.
I actually gave Ted my Facebook login and password. He would log into my social media page. He would go in and see who's doing what.
We always de factoed to Ted Anger. It seemed like Ted was the de facto everything. Like Ted was Gwen's right-hand man.
Good Sabbath. Welcome. Are we not grateful to be in God's house this morning? I know all of us are just grateful to be alive today. I know I am. It's good to be alive.
I find myself feeling comfortable saying an awful lot about Ted Anger. I think it's just because, aside from Remnant Fellowship, he himself is a different type of monster. There was a period of time where he actually tried to claim that he changed his name from Ted Anger to Ted Anger, which was, as pretentious as it sounds, really just a subtle sign of how he felt people perceived him to me, because Ted Anger fits the man a lot more than anything else. I remember him getting angry. I remember him shouting a lot. He's a big guy, so he's very intimidating. When it came to the things he did, he would gleefully pull someone in for punishment. Ted spanked me and my brother with belts more times than I can count. He was not the kind of person to use a glue stick. I wouldn't feel that he is a safe person to be around children, specifically because he knows he has that authority, that power. Honestly, not sure which one I look forward to more. The day Gwen is no longer running Remnant Fellowship Church, or the day Ted finally goes too far with somebody and has to deal with those consequences in the real world.
Kids are an investment to Gwen. They are the best investment for her financially, but the worst for anybody going into that situation. That church didn't lead me in the dang right direction. That church was leading me to go hang myself in my own closet, fam. Nobody comprehends what mental abuse does to people. It don't matter color, skin, whoever you are. Depression is real.
A few of the youth that I grew up with, they committed suicide, and I could very much relate to that. I definitely was going through a really deep depression while I was in Remnant. And I just don't think I should have been 12, 13, in a deep depression. I'm in middle school.
Jake Gallarda, that was my best friend. He overdosed. You think about how he passed away. They don't want to say it. I don't want to say what he overdosed on. It's just the fact that he overdosed. When you overdose, you're trying to kill some pain that's been done to you too intense, or you just want to feel how to get the fuck away from what the fuck is going on in your life. That's a problem. And he couldn't talk to nobody. Who are you gonna talk to?
I don't think I lived a normal childhood, truly.
You need to repent. You need to give it up. Give up that life and be born again into a new life that has clearly been demonstrated here to be a superior life.
It did become where you had to fall in line. You had to do what she said. You couldn't question. It was divisive. You'd be called out. You'd be turned in. We were told to turn each other in. I couldn't go to my best friend and say, something doesn't seem right. If you're not going to do what they say, you're not obeying God. And therefore, God's turning away from you, and therefore you're going to hell. And you're a lost cause. You can't ever get back to God. Those are the things they're teaching. Over time, you learn to just keep quiet, but you question everything. So I was never a mindless follower. I questioned a lot. I just didn't speak up. I couldn't become that robot. And I believe with anybody in there that she sees as maybe strong and doesn't mindlessly follow, she starts contending with.
Tell me about your hair.
So I decided to liberate myself and I buzzed it off, getting rid of all the past weight of abuse and pain, and just start fresh. It was a battle to get past everything that had been beat into me for 7 years. When Gwen said, you know, the man is the head of the household, if your husband says this, then you do that. You didn't question it, because if you questioned it, then you were taken into leadership for counseling, and no one liked to go in for counseling with leadership because it wasn't counseling, it was torture, mental torture. After the birth of my second child, it essentially was kind of thrown onto me of being a childcare provider for Remnant. After having these days of 8 to 12 hours of, 6 children under 3, then my husband coming home, and all he would want to do, he'd want to have sex. And so most days I did not feel like it. He complained to Ted, Ted and Candace were our leaders at that point. I get a visit from Candace one afternoon. She starts talking about how maybe you should just have a glass of wine at the end of the day, maybe 2. And then, when he wants to do something, even if you don't feel like it, just do it anyways. And at the time I was like, that doesn't sound right to me. That sounded like rape. But then Ted suggested to me, go off birth control. It's okay. We're not gonna get pregnant again. I think it's killing your drive, and so let's, go off birth control. I followed my leader's advice, and I let him do what he wanted to do, and I ended up getting pregnant with our third. And then was criticized by Ted for getting pregnant again.
The men in that church are all part of this good old boy club, and they expect the women to be subservient. The women are told to lose more weight, be more feminine, be more exciting to your husband, and be more submissive. It's all about what you're doing wrong. There was many times in my marriage, my husband would say those words to me, that I'm going to go talk to Ted about how you're talking to me right now. That is not submissive. I'm gonna turn you in if you don't stop talking to me like that. And all I'm doing is telling him, I am sick of your addiction. I'm sick of your infidelity. I am not gonna live like this anymore, and you're gonna have to move out if you don't make a choice to stop. I'm telling Ted one night, Ted, I need him to go to a hotel tonight. I cannot emotionally deal with him being under this roof after what I have just found out today about him again. Again. Please, I need some time. Gina, do me a favor. Let him come home. He's looking at me right now. He's so repentant. He's so sorry. He's promising me he's not going to do it anymore. Let him come home. You can't work things out if you're separated. God wouldn't want that. Do it as a personal favor. And he said those words, a personal favor to me. Well, what do? It's Ted. If I don't do it, what's going to happen? I know what's going to happen. I'm kicked out. I'm at least brought in for some serious counsel. I'm watched like a hawk, and my kids and my husband are told lies about me. So what do? You let him come home. You let him get in your bed, and you lay there and you cry like a baby all night, and you act like everything's fine the next day. And that's what I lived for 13 years in there.
One of the ways that humans learn submission in cultic groups is You're under authority to somebody else, and they have control over you, like complete control. You would not think twice about disobeying them, or if they directly told you, I need you to do this, you're supposed to do this, God wants you to do this, you would just do it. You might cry out inside of yourself that this isn't the right thing to do, but if you believe that by doing this, you're saving yourself and maybe saving your children, yeah, you will go back to an abusive husband. You will, if you're told by leadership, you'll do that. It serves the purposes of the group. It maintains an image that is in Gwen's mind about what that church is supposed to look like.
There's all sorts of levels of undue influence. Not every case of undue influence is brainwashing. But if you follow Mayo Sussik's Young definition of it, it was that you convince people that they are sick and that you're not going to make it in this world. You need to be helped. And they're applied in a group setting where people work on you to see the light.
A city on a hill, and you'll step.
Hey guys, what an exodus. This is our last exodus.
I was listening and watching a Way Down Advanced video segment, and it was on total obedience. And it made me think about getting off the antidepressants and off the medicine.
When you're sick of the suffering, you'll quit it. You'll quit it. You'll be sick of self, sick of those antidepressants, sick of being too big for your pants. And so I'm just asking everybody, you probably are sick of it. Just stop it.
I weaned myself off, and I was doing fine for the first month and a half. I was doing great. I still had the residual effects of the medicine inside me. I went up one Sunday morning and did a testimony, and I was so happy. I'm off of my medicine and all this. And after that happened, I started having panic attacks. I would be in church, and I would have to get out in the parking lot and run because I felt like I was running out of my skin. I was just terrified. I would be on my face praying and reading scriptures and just wanting God to take the depression away, and he wouldn't. And I would call there, and Ted said, just pray those demons away. They're demons. Just pray them away.
If you're still struggling with depression or with just thoughts of your God forsaken or all this kind of stuff, it still leads to, you didn't call us up here at the office to talk about us. I mean, still, the person's still struggling. They can sit there and say, well, I'm not thinking about myself. Well, you weren't thinking about me when you called us up over here at the office.
I was told that I just needed to completely dive in, 100%. Just completely follow God's will. So dove in, I did. I was at the lowest point weight-wise, but I was following the teachings of the church. I remember the day where I asked permission from my ex-husband if I could have a Starbucks drink. And I was told, do you want that or do you want to have dinner? I was not getting enough nutrients, and I was running on top of this. It was soon after a race, a 5K race, that I ended up in the ER. Electrolytes were completely off. They had believed that there was a mini stroke.
I didn't try to commit suicide, but I prayed for God to just let me die. I drove to the ER in another town. And I told the doctor that I was thinking about suicide and that I was terrified. And they said, well, we're gonna take you off campus to a psychiatrist to get you some help, some medicine, some help. So I said, oh good, because I wanted medicine. So I'm taken in the back of a police car, I'm handcuffed, and I'm driven out to a mental health facility. And then I see a doctor, I tell them about the cold and about how scared I am, and she says, you're not going anywhere, you're staying. Had a roommate that was crazy. Then the nurse said, well, she might smear her poop on the wall at night, or you may have to sleep with one eye open, but you know, she's not too bad. And I was just terrified. So the next day, I used the payphone and I called my husband and I said, get Gwen's lawyer to get me out of here because I'm terrified. I don't want to be here. And he said, Ted told me to tell you that you deserve hell on earth for being disobedient and that you deserve to be there.
I was left in the hospital alone because my ex-husband had come to learn that the reason that I was in the hospital was because I'd been, quote unquote, self-induced. I remember lying on the hospital bed and seeing the fear in the doctor's eyes when he said that I needed to get help right away or I was going to die. And it was then that it did click. For someone in the outside world to tell me this, that it was life-altering, it was life-changing. It was the push into what would force me to make a decision that I would never regret.
The next day, I was seen by the therapist there, who was a Christian, who revealed to me that she takes antidepressants and that she praises God with her medicine and that it was okay. And they called my husband, he came. It took 45 minutes for the social worker to convince him that I did have clinical depression, that it was not a spiritual problem, before I could leave. And so I left, we left, and he told me that I could take my medicine as long as he didn't see me take my medicine. So if the leadership called, he could say, I don't know anything about it. So I started getting better, and then I'd go back to church, and I had a smile on my face, and they were like, oh, you look so great. See, you did not need that medicine. And of course, I was on the medicine.
God is the Alpha and the Omega. He is the beginning and the end. And his son, Jesus Christ, is coming back. Where are you?
No matter what religion you're in, generally as humans, we know we have a higher self. You can call it our better angels or whatever. We have a spirit, a higher spirit. And we have a lower self. It wants to do whatever it wants, right? Well, we look to our spiritual leaders, whether they're shaman or whether they're reverends, to coach us up. You have people who say they're about these elevated, higher sense of selves, this best self, when in fact, everything they're doing is feeding the lower self. The shame, the guilt, the anger, the rage, they're feeding that at the same time they're saying it's all about Jesus.
What is Gwen's ultimate goal? To be God Almighty herself. That's exactly what it is. That's the reason I call her Gwen Almighty. She has sole control. She's gonna decide whether you make it to heaven or not, you know? And if she don't want you there, guess you won't be there.
One thing that I learned about depositions is you can take depositions and have them written and transcribed, but you cannot get the little nuances of the eye rolling and the gestures and the pauses. You can't put that in a transcript. And of course, I subjected Gwen to a video deposition.
Have you ever used a glue stick?
No.
Hit a kid on the wrist or anything?
Never, never. This is so taken out of context.
No, not physical discipline?
No, because it's not done at the church to start with. It's nothing like this aura. That's not there. And it's just, so I think we're probably the most highly investigated church in the United States.
She's a very calculating person, so she knows she's on and she's like on the stand. So she's very, very careful.
Are you aware that a lot of folks have, at least online, expressed that they think Remnant Fellowship is a cult.
Check to the form.
I'm not aware a lot. It's kind of like, so a lot of people, no. And you'd have to define a lot because it's anonymous.
This process has lasted for 6 years now. And with the involvement of Gwen since 2017, it's still not finished. The judge allowed me to be the primary parent. He also gave me sole decision-making, which includes religion, education, extracurricular activities, non-emergency medical, and other. I'm waiting for our daughter to finish school, and then I'm moving out of the neighborhood. I get to move up to 50 miles. I will move up to 50 miles from Ashlawn because they have had trucks, Exodus trucks parked in front of my apartment. It's reasonable for me to believe that they are filming me, following me, because they are trying to get any dirt on me. I need to get out of there.
It's been 4 years and 5 months since my first interaction with Jackson. Since then, there's been some things that have developed, but at the same time, nothing's changed. In one of our more recent interactions with Delaney and Jackson, I used the term them when I was talking to Delaney, and she stopped me and said, "When you say them, you mean me too." That made it clear that she's all in. Not that we didn't think she was, but you play games with yourself and pretend that maybe there's a chance that that there's a seed of doubt, and that took some of that away. Recently, we met with them for breakfast and again reiterated that we wouldn't be at a wedding where Gwen Shamblin was preaching or officiating, and then that I can't in good conscience step inside that building. Then a week later, my daughter wanted to come talk to me, and we took a walk, and she told me we've changed the venue and that Gwen would not be officiating and potentially won't even go. Based on that, my wife and I talked about it, and we let her know that we would be attending her wedding. For all intents and purposes, we lost our daughter. It's been tough for both of us. We both have bad days, and we both have days we want to give up on the situation, but it doesn't happen on the same day. She knows that when I'm having a rough day, she needs to be strong, and I know when she's having a rough day that I need to be strong.